what's up, everyone? It's Jenny, the LDS Mission Coach, and you are listening to the LDS Mission Podcast, episode number 27, Leading with Love. I'm Jenny, the LDS Mission Coach, and whether you are preparing to serve a mission, currently serving, a returned missionary, or a missionary mama like me, I created this podcast just for you. Are you searching for epic confidence? Ready to love yourself and to learn the how of doing hard things? Then let's go. I will help you step powerfully into your potential and never question your purpose again. It's time to embrace yourself, embrace your mission, embrace your life, and embrace what's next. Hey everyone, and welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I can't believe it, but we are through half of December. By the time this podcast comes out, it'll actually be the Friday before Christmas Eve. Only 1 week until Christmas Eve. I just can't believe it. Where did December go? Such a fun time of year. It's also a very busy time of year. Also a time of year where we feel a lot of emotions. Am I right? Lots of thoughts happening with lots of feelings. Lots of actions we feel like we want to take or that we need to take, and it's all beautiful and good. Thank goodness for this season, for Jesus Christ, and that he was born. We love celebrating him, and many times at Christmas, I love thinking about how we're also looking forward to his return. So cool. My kids are coming home tomorrow, one of them. And then the other one, after he's done with his shifts at the MTC and his wife is done doing some nursing school wrap-up type things, we're going to see them too. And we're going to all be together for Christmas, which we haven't had in a long time as we've had them both on missions. Both my sons have been on missions. So it's going to be super fun. Spoiler alert, I'm buying Christmas pajamas, which I know is a normal tradition for most of you, but the past few years I haven't bought Christmas pajamas for all of my kids because they've been in warm climates or places they didn't need Christmas pajamas. So I'm excited that I got to buy all Christmas pajamas plus an extra set for my new daughter-in-law. I love it. So today I want to talk about leading with love. And what I mean by leading is if you are in a leadership position at any point on the mission. This can also happen off the mission. Maybe you have a calling where you're in a leadership position. Maybe at work, you are over a few people in your department or something like that. Maybe you are a shift leader. And I know that many of you are in positions of leadership. And so I want to talk about leading today, leadership positions, and doing it with so much love. We're going to talk about the traps we kind of fall into when it comes to leadership positions. And then we're going to talk about maybe some of the other strategies that we can use instead. But before we jump into all of that, I want to remind you that we're enrolling right now for Mental Mission Prep for my January group. And the stuff we talk about in there is mission changing. There's a huge difference between missionaries who go out and have tools and mental and emotional strategies to overcome struggle and missionaries who don't have those tools. And sometimes those missionaries come home, which I'm totally fine with. Believe me, I've coached many an early return missionary and many a return missionary, and it's okay if they come home. But if we can help them have these strategies and tools before they leave for anxiety, for discouragement, for failure, for companion struggles, just we set them up for success. And that's what I do in Mental Mission Prep. So if you're interested, go to my website, jennydildine.com, click on a strategy call, and we will see if Mental Mission Prep is right for you. Now on to leading with love. We're going to talk about 3 traps that we sometimes fall into when we are in a leadership position. And I want to talk about those 3. I'm going to just give them to you briefly here, and then we're going to kind of dive into each one. Number 1 is sometimes we're confused about what our objective is in our leadership role. Number 2 is sometimes we fuel our action with the wrong emotion. And number 3, sometimes we disregard our and their humanness. So let's jump into some of these. Number 1, when we get confused about our objective in a leadership position, is sometimes I think we get confused in thinking that our job as a leader is to make someone behave a certain way. We think that it's our job to coerce or kind of manipulate or kind of instill a little bit of fear maybe or consequence so that we can get someone to behave the way that we want them to behave. Now, I think a lot of the time we don't even realize we're doing this, that we think we need to control them and make people behave in a certain way. We don't even realize that we're doing this. And what this is us thinking that we can control other people's outcomes. But what's true is our thoughts create our emotions, which drive our own actions and give us our own outcomes. I run into this sometimes when I'm talking to moms who have young adult children or even teenage children who say to me, yeah, I'm just doing all of the things that I think I should, and all of that action is fueled with love, but then they still aren't making it home in time for their curfew. And I'm saying, yeah, that's because their result comes from their thought, which is something probably like, it's kind of fun to stay out late. And then their emotion is being entertained. And then they stay out late. And that's their result. But our results are always ours. We can't, it's not actually physically possible for us to make someone behave in a certain way, make someone think a certain way, or make someone feel a certain way. Now, please don't misunderstand me. We can have influence, and I'm not saying like, let's just let everyone run amok and do whatever they want to do. But when we're in a leadership role, we want to be really careful of falling into this trap that we think we can change people or make them behave a certain way. One example might be, let's say that your companion is not getting up on time. If your companion is not getting up on time, we can do all the things. We can set the alarm. I remember one time, one of my sons on his mission, his companion told him, if it looks like I'm not getting up, I want you to grab a bucket of ice and then dump it on me. And so there my son Nathan was like ready to dump the ice on him. And he was like, please wake up, because I don't want to dump this ice on him. Now we can try all of that. But even if we dumped ice on our companion, it still doesn't mean that they're going to behave the way that we want them to. Even if we love them, even if we inspired them, no matter what we do, people always have the agency to behave the way they want to behave. Now, I just want to be really clear. Please don't take this to mean that we should be dumping ice on our companions who sleep in. Please do not do that. This specific companion said, maybe that'll motivate me to get out of bed. I want you to stand there with a bucket of ice. So unless your companion specifically asked for that, I do not want to hear of any of you dumping ice on one another. So this might also apply to a companion who's staying up really late. Like we can teach and we can train and we can say things and we can do all of the things, but ultimately a person has their agency. This also applies when we're teaching someone the gospel. We can offer them thoughts. We can share our thoughts with them. We can have so much love for them. But none of that is designed to make someone get baptized or to make someone accept the gospel. They still always have their agency. We can always make requests, but the actions we take will not always change someone else's results. We can influence and we can make requests, but it doesn't always change it for them. Okay, again, that's trap number 1. Don't be confused about your objective. Your objective is not to make people behave a certain way. That's not your job. Number 2 is sometimes we make the mistake or we fall into the trap of fueling our actions with the wrong emotion. And I see this a lot, especially when it comes to goals on the mission. Or we might see this, let's say you're a shift leader and people are coming in late. I always love to default to emotions that feel good because I think of emotions like the fuel in our car. And every action that I take in a leadership role, I want to be fueled with love, acceptance, and compassion, and calm, and certainty. So think of maybe we're in a district leader or a zone leader, maybe we're a shift leader. When we fuel our actions in that role with pressure, overwhelm, or anxiousness, or maybe even fear, those actions we take are going to land a lot differently than when we fuel our actions to reach those goals with love, compassion, and acceptance. Now, how are emotions created? Always with our thinking. So we got to take it one step back. If our emotions are not a useful emotion, if we're not fueling it with a useful emotion, we got to take a step backwards and think, what am I thinking that's causing this pressure? Sometimes it's a thought like, we got to meet this goal or else, okay? That creates pressure, anxiousness, and overwhelm. Instead, what I like to ask myself is, why are we doing this anyway? We're doing this to serve. Who can we serve today? And then that creates a feeling of love, acceptance, and compassion. Or if we're in a leadership role even, how can I better serve the people who are working underneath me? So again, trap number 2 is sometimes we fuel our action with a wrong emotion, an emotion that doesn't get us very far and keeps us stuck. Number 3 trap we sometimes fall into is we disregard our humanness and their humanness. Sometimes I've seen this so much that a missionary gets to become like a trainer for a new missionary. And they reach out and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do this. I can't be a trainer. How do I be perfect? How do I teach them exactly the right way? And the truth is, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to sometimes not do it right because you have a lower brain that is going to give you thoughts that create emotions that sometimes aren't useful. And the same is true with the person you're leading or teaching. They have a lower brain too. If we go back to this example of the companion who's sleeping in, we think, why are they sleeping in? It's driven by an emotion, which is maybe something like comfortable, okay? And then it comes from a thought, which is like, oh, it just feels so good to stay in bed, or I want to stay in bed, which is a human thing. It's normal and natural for your brain to want to be a little bit lazy, to want to rest whenever possible. Number 3 is we gotta stop disregarding the fact that we're human. Humans are late. Humans sleep in. Humans mess stuff up all the time because of that lower brain. Somehow we think that when we become a leader or in a leadership position, or when we get out on the mission, that we just shouldn't have that part of our brain anymore that causes us to think thoughts and have emotions. But it's not true. We take our brain with us wherever we go. Another part of this is we sort of fall into the trap that we need to fix someone. Again, disregarding this humanness is we think they shouldn't be anxious. They shouldn't be sleeping in. I shouldn't be anxious. I shouldn't be sleeping in. One example I have of this, of the sister who asked me what she could do to help her companion not feel anxious. And I wanted to be like, except for, then we're disregarding her humanness. She's actually allowed to feel anxious sometimes because she has a human brain. And I said, don't you feel anxious sometimes too? And she said, yeah, actually I do. And I said, see, it's normal. Don't disregard your humanness and don't disregard her humanness. When it comes to these emotions that are kind of challenging to deal with in a leadership position, you guys, the best thing to do is not need the person to be different. The best thing to do is to normalize it and to show up with so much love. We can say, oh, there goes their human brain again, trying to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and conserve energy. Oh, there goes my brain again, trying to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and conserve energy, and it's all fine. All right. Just a review of these 3 traps. We sometimes get confused about our objective. We can't make people behave a certain way. Sometimes we fuel our action with the wrong emotion. We put the wrong gas in the car. And sometimes, number 3, we disregard our humanness and their humanness. So what can we do instead? This is what I recommend, is that we just meet people where they are. This is hard to do sometimes because our brain kind of tells us that if our companion would just get out of bed on time, that we would get to feel better. Or if our companion just weren't as anxious, that we would get to feel better. Or that if the person on our shift just came in on time, that we would not have to feel irritated or upset. But because emotions are created with our thinking and not by what's going on outside of us, we get to feel whatever feelings we want to right now. Our companion cannot get out of bed and we can just think, I just love them. Look at their human brain at work, and meet them where they are. We create our experience, not with the things outside of us, but with our thinking. Another thing we can do instead of falling into these traps is we can ask sincerely, not in a judgmental way even, and we don't even have to say it out loud, but we can ask and wonder, gosh, I wonder what's going on for them. We can really sincerely I wonder what they're thinking and feeling that's causing them to behave this way. And we can know that it's okay. And instead of making it always about me and the way this affects me, we go into their head a little bit and think, gosh, I wonder what's going on for them. Another thing I recommend is that we love all of the parts of people. We love the part where our companion doesn't get out of bed on time, because now we know his brain's working just the way it should. We love the part when our companion has anxiety. We love that part of them too, because then we know their brain's working, and we get it because we've been anxious sometimes too. And one little tip, and this would be an entire podcast episode on its own, but it's so much easier to love all the parts of other people, even the annoying parts, when we love all the parts of ourselves, even our annoying parts. Another thing that we can do when we're in a leadership role is we can hold space for people to feel whatever they need to feel. We can create space for their humanness. I say this all the time, but Heavenly Father could have sent us to earth with just a higher brain where we were perfect and we would always be happy. But remember, that was Satan's plan. He wanted us to always be happy, but Heavenly Father knew better. He knew that it was in this duality, in this opposition, where we would get to choose and where we would get to feel all the emotions on the spectrum. We would get to have a human experience, and that's a beautiful thing. Gerald Casey gave a BYU speech, and I think it was a devotional. It was entitled Harmony of Body and Spirit, A Key to Happiness. And this was from October of 2020. One of my favorite quotes from this is he said, "The purpose of our lives is not to disavow our natures or our humanness, but to bring that humanness into harmony with our spirits." So sometimes when I'm in a leadership position, I'm just like, oh, look at that humanness going on right there. Even with my kids, instead of being irritated or frustrated, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I love them. Look at them being a human. I get it. I'm a human too. The last couple of things I want to offer you here are some thoughts that you can kind of direct yourself to, or some questions you can ask in a leadership role. And the first one is, what would love do here? Meaning, if my actions were fueled with love, what would I do? And we do that. And sometimes that means like, hey, I'm going to let them sleep in for a second. And sometimes that means I'm going to gently wake them up. Or sometimes we have a really kind heart-to-heart with someone we're training or someone that is on our staff. What would love do here? Another sentence I default to often when I'm in a leadership position is, my one job is to love them. It's not your job to fix their anxiety or to make them be different than they are. It sounds a little bit like this. You want to get up a little later? It's okay. I get it. You're a human. And I love you. Or it sounds like this. You feel a little stressed, overwhelmed, or anxious, companion? That's okay. I got you. I'm going to be here loving you. You feel however you need to. Okay, just a quick recap. Let's not fall into the 3 traps and get confused about our objectives, or fuel our action with the wrong emotion, or disregard our humanness and their humanness. Let's just give people all of the love. Let's meet them where they are. Let's be curious about what's going on for them. Let's hold the space for them to be human and feel whatever they need to feel. All right? Everyone have the most amazing week. I hope you're enjoying this Christmas season. And just so you know, I'm sending you all the love. Talk to you again soon. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast today. If you want to learn more about the mental and emotional tools I teach young adults so they can overcome worry and anxiety, serve the successful missions they've always dreamed of, and navigate their post-mission experience with confidence, go to jennydildine.com or just come hang out with me on Instagram at jenny.theldsmissioncoach. And until then, remember, no matter which part of the mission experience that you are involved in, Jenny, the LDS Mission Coach, is thinking about you every single day.